Hey guys, thank you for joining us once again for our series Control Freak. We are going to land the plane on this series tonight. I hope that you have enjoyed this, that you've gotten something out of this, and that you've been able to look at your own heart and see if you're having a hard time letting go of control and giving that over to God. Let's go back to last week a little bit, and we talked about when chaos hits, whenever change hits, there's something that we all try to do. We either try to disengage from the situation and just give up. We try to escape the situation and self-medicate and turn to things to numb ourselves to the situation. But let's hone in on the third thing we talked about last week, which is panic. Whenever we panic, we tend to try to grab control wherever we can find it. And one way that we really didn't explore last week is that we try to control people. Some of you might know people that you would say are manipulating or bossy, but there are many different ways that we can talk about controlling people and trying to feel safe by getting people to like us. But let's talk about two ways tonight. The first way that people try to control other people is just by bossiness, by trying to make a person have a change in behavior to make themselves feel better. We can do this in many different ways. We can do this in a relationship when we're trying to change the behavior of the person we're with. We try to do it in our families, that if our parents just acted this way or if our kids just acted this way, things would be fine. But we can even do it in leadership sometimes, that we try to make people behave a certain way that we believe they ought to, not because it's good for them, but because it's good for us. In 1 Peter chapter 5, it says this, "Care for the flock that God has entrusted to you. Watch over it willingly, not grudgingly. Not for what you will get out of it, but because you are eager to serve God. Don't lord it over people assigned to your care, but lead them by your own good example." You see, even in leadership, we can sometimes try to get people to behave a certain way for what we get out of it, not for their own good or for the glory of God. So if you feel like you're in a place of being bossy, where you're just trying to get people to behave a certain way, you need to start to look at your heart and say, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I feel like this genuinely benefits this person, or because I feel better whenever they behave the way I want them to? Now, sometimes you can try to change a person's behavior or make them take turns because it is good for them. You could be trying to help a friend be free from an addiction or a bad relationship, but we do need to look at why we're doing that truly. Is it a love for that person, a genuine care for their comfort and their well-being? Or is it that we feel good when they behave a way that we like? But being bossy and domineering isn't the only way that we try to control people's feelings. There's another way that we try to be manipulative, and it's harder to see, and it's being a people pleaser. Sometimes you would say, oh, that person's just trying to make other people happy, or they're just truly trying to get attention. But there's a reason why some of us become people pleasers, and it's really stressful whenever we are. You see, a lot of times we try to gauge our own comfort and our safety and security by how many people we can get to like us. We feel that if a situation is going to go bad in the future, and we have a lot of people who like us right now, when things take a turn, when things go bad, we will have a crowd of people to still hold us up. But what that does is it makes us feel very stressed that we have to keep people's attention and make sure that they like us all the time. That everyone has to have this great affection for us and admiration for us, so that way whenever things go bad, we can depend on them. We're not trying to make them feel good because we love them. We're trying to make them feel good so that way they can help us feel good whenever we need help. But whenever we try to become people pleasers, then we put ourselves at odds with who we're serving. Are we trying to serve people and try to get their praise and attention, or are we still trying to serve God? In Galatians chapter 1, Paul says this, "Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be a servant of Christ." So how is this an element of trying to be controlling? Well, you'll try to be as nice and good towards people, not because you're trying to make them happy, but because they might make you happy in the future. It's not about what they can get out of it, it's about what you get out of their happiness. Now, it's okay to feel good about making other people feel good. It's okay to get a smile on your own face because you put a smile on someone else's. But if your entire worldview is wrapped around whether or not people like you, and that's what makes you feel safe and secure and comfortable, you have to be very careful that that's not your addiction, that you're not addicted to the feeling of control you get by always making other people feel good. In 1 Corinthians 10:31, Paul says this, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews or Greeks or the church of God, even as I try to please everyone in every way." And here's a key part. "For I am not trying to seek my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved." You see, it's okay to want to please people and try to win them over, but are you trying to win them over to liking you, or are you trying to help them realize how great God is? Are you trying to be all things to all people and reach them where they are so that way they like you and you get praise and attention? Or are you doing that so that way they see how great the God is that you serve and how much He loves them and loves you where y'all are? So here's the challenge, and this is a little bit difficult because sometimes we can be blind to our own motivations, is to look at why we treat people the way we do. So if you find yourself kind of being a little controlling and that you're really bossy and trying to get people to behave a certain way, ask yourself, am I doing this because I'm genuinely interested in their well-being, I'm genuinely caring about whether or not they are going to be doing well, or am I doing this because I want them to behave a certain way that makes me feel comfortable and safe? And alternatively, if you're trying to be a people pleaser, if you're trying to just make people happy, are you doing this genuinely because you just love that person, want them to be happy, and want them to know God? Or are you doing this because you feel safe by being popular? You feel comfortable by having the affections of people around you, and you feel like that's going to cash in later on when you go into a bad time. Go find someone who knows you very well, who loves Jesus very much, and can help you sort of sift through your own motivations, can help you realize whether or not you have been trying to get someone to change their behavior because you love them and you want them to live a wise life, or if it's just that you want them to behave a certain way that makes you feel comfortable. Likewise, that if you're trying to be really popular and trying to make people happy, you're great at giving gifts and doing things for people, is it because you genuinely love them and that you're trying to help them have a great life, or is it that you're trying to make them like you so that way you feel more safe by being more popular? It's hard for any of us to have perfect motivations for something. None of us really do, but we can take those steps towards treating people in an honest, upright, healthy way and trying to break free from the bondage of trying to control everything. We can't control anyone else. We often can't even control ourselves. So let's go ahead and submit our lives and the lives of other people to a God who truly is in control. Let us go ahead and say, you know what? I can't control how everyone thinks. I can't control how they feel about me and what they do. But what we can do is try to treat other people right and then trust in a God who is working in our lives and their lives, that who will work all things out for the good of those who love Him. Hope that you're all doing well and that you're all safe wherever you are. Let's work on our relationships with each other, even though we're separated, that we're living in an honest, upright way towards each other and that we don't have an ulterior motive.